pastry. Not the easiest thing in the world to make, full stop. Probably one of the more difficult pastries. And if I'm going to be perfectly honest, probably easier to buy it. But if you're going to make it, this is how you do it. You're only going to need 5 ingredients and you're going to make a pastry that's got light buttery layers in between. It's going to rise beautifully in the oven. So down here I've got 500 grams of plain flour. And on top of this we've got a 250 gram block of butter. And what we're going to do is we're going to use 150 grams of this butter in the flour, and then we're going to use the other 100 grams to make a central layer of butter that go running through the pastry. There we are, so not a bad guess. So we're going to take that 150 grams of butter. It's at room temperature. We're going to cut that into cubes. We're going to get it into our flour, and we're just going to work it into a very, very rough breadcrumb mix, just like you were making ordinary run-of-the-mill short crust pastry. And there we go. So while you're working this butter, don't overwork it, okay? It's the last thing you want to do. You need big lumps of that butter still in there, okay? So nice big pieces all mixed in with the pastry. Don't overdo it. The last thing you want is a fine breadcrumb mixture. You want it really rough, okay? A couple of minutes is plenty. So what you want to do is use cold milk straight from the fridge, okay? And you want 250 millilitres of this, and we're going to put that into the pastry, and that's going to form our basic pastry ready to refrigerate before we start rolling it out into its layers. 250 mils. And there we are. So once that's a very loose dough, what you can do is clean your fork off, get your hands in and form that into a pastry. So there we are. As you can see, we've formed our dough now, our pastry dough, into a rough pastry. So what we're going to do is tip this onto a floured surface, and there's still big lumps of butter in there, which is all fine. It's exactly what we want. So tip it onto a floured surface and work it for about another 10 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes or so, and so you can form it into a really decent, smooth ball of pastry. I can still see all the big chunks of butter in there, but that's perfect. That's exactly as we want it. So there we are. Okay, so the trick with this pastry now is that you're going to need to keep it cold. So what we're going to do is going to wrap this in cling film, and we're going to refrigerate it for about half an hour before we start working it into a puff pastry. And while that's refrigerating, I'll show you what to do with the remaining butter. Okay, so for our butter, we've got our pastry is cooling down in the fridge. Now what we've got is a piece of parchment paper, about so big, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to get our butter and we're going to roll it out in between this parchment paper to about half the size of that piece of paper. We're going to pop this into the fridge now, and we're going to let this slab of butter, which is quite thin, We're going to let it cool off in the fridge along with our pastry. So with our pastry been cooling or chilling in the fridge now for about 30 minutes, it's time to get it out, get it onto a floured surface and roll it out. Okay, so you've got your sheet of butter now that we are going to turn over, and we're going to pop this onto the one side of the pastry, like so. So what you need to do now is to rub this really hard onto there to get that all to adhere to the pastry. It'll be free from the paper when we peel it off, hopefully. Okay, so fold over your half onto the other half of the butter. Fold it again. Reflour. And re-roll. Okay, so what you're going to do is roll this into a long rectangle, which is twice the length of its width. So roll that out. And then fold it into the centres. And that's your first roll done. So what you need to do now is to put this back in the fridge, okay, get it cold again. So we're going to wrap it back up in cling film, refrigerate it for 10 minutes. And you're going to need to do this up to about 12-15 times if you like, 6 times minimum. Okay, but we'll do it a few more times, but you need to refrigerate it between each roll for about 10 minutes. Cling film. Okay, so get our pastry again out of the fridge, and as you can see, we've got a long rectangular piece here, okay, and we're going to roll it that way, so that we keep rolling it in this direction at the longest piece, okay, and we're going to double it in length again, fold it over, refrigerate it, get it out, roll it out, double it in length, fold it over, refrigerate it. You could do this 12-15 times if you like. The more times you do it, the more layers of buttery pastry you're going to get in the actual pastry itself. So you can get more layers in it. So the more time you invest, the better puff pastry you're going to get. And as you're rolling it, you can hear the butter popping in there. You can hear it making little popping noises. And you want to try and keep this now as square as you can. there we are. All we're going to do with this pastry now is we're going to cut it in half, and when you cut it in half now you should be able to see all of the nice layers along the side of the pastry. So we get that cut, we'll wrap the two pieces in cling film and you can bung them in the freezer, or if you want to use them you can pretty much use them straight away, but I'd chill them down for about another hour or so. Perfect puff pastry. If you're going to make it, this is how you do it. Enjoy.
Bye.